folks. There should also be Wi-Fi in case you need it, be it for uploading anything to your email. I'm just trying to also get it on for myself. Okay. Thanks for your patience, folks. We're gonna go in just a moment. Okay. Let's get started. We can continue, guys. So I'm just gonna say things and I'll try to say them loud. Bill, if you can hear me, let me know. Perfect. Okay. So we have lab 4 as for thermoregulation, exploring different organisms across pavilions. We know the 3 of them based on our lab manual: Tundra Trek, Australasia, and Africa. And we're going to go in that order roughly. Your job is to take as many photos of different organisms as they fall under different categories for thermoregulation. That includes homeotherms, which are less sensitive to changes in their core temperature, poikilotherms, which are more variable, endotherms that have a source of body temperature from metabolic processes, and ectotherms that are essentially influenced by environmental temperatures or changes in the environment. So pretty much you want to take as many take note of descriptions, take photos as I describe different animals or organisms across the pavilions. Make sure that for your lab 4 assignment, you take 3 of those organisms with detailed descriptions of their location, their species names, where you found them in exhibit and where they would be found in real life, how they thermoregulate, and the different categories that I just described, and why they would use the certain features that they have to thermoregulate accordingly. Any questions for lab 4? So I said pretty much that material all in one go, or what I hope at least is that you're able to understand what I said. Bill, could you hear me during most of the time? Yeah, okay. Any questions in the meantime, anyone? No questions? Okay, so just bear in mind, we'll be going in to different pavilions. Try to stay all together. When other people from different areas try to come in, try to make space accordingly. Some places are a bit narrow. And hopefully we'll be able to describe and take a note of specific details that I share with you guys today. Once again, any questions? No questions? Okay. You're the other TA, right? That's correct. The other TA. You want me? Perfect. Okay. Hi there. So, you need the number? Right? 54 boxes. Plus the 3 students. Yeah. Yes. And for 11 parking passes, or you need more? No, 14. 14 parking passes. Oh, no, it's 14, okay. And actually, another thing is there's an update from the past. Essentially, there was a miscount, extra 8 students. Remember from our last week? Yeah. 8 students apparently weren't counted for. So, from the other practical. So we may have to include them. They'll make it 62 students. More students in total. It'll be 62 students. I think something fell from your. Know that the students are from last week. I will let them know. I will let them know. If you have to go, you can go with your group. I need the parking passes. Oh yeah. Okay. Right now, if you're allowed to.
And then you said you wanted 14 together, so 3 more?
Yes, that's correct.
5. And you said how many students altogether?
So we have here 54, but from last week, there seems to be a miscount of 8 extra not being included. So that's why it would have been in total 62 students to account for that, essentially.
What's coming in today? 16.
What's coming in, we're accounting for the students of the past, essentially. They weren't included last week.
But they're not coming in today?
No.
Okay.
So they were missing.
That's fine. I'm not going to make them go. Well, they are not coming in today, so I can't put them in. I'll put them in for the next account. Yeah, and then you want more.
Yes, that's fine.
That's going to get like a couple of issues. Yes. Oh, sure. It doesn't have to be the film. Okay, yeah.
Maybe like 30, maybe like
30, unfortunately, that's a lot of math, and we're trying to, like the whole thing is conservation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I can give you around 10 to 15, but that's it.
Okay. Remind me, so you gave me 6?
I gave you 6 so far, yes, 10 to 15.
Okay, okay. I think I killed 7. He needs 4. By the way,
Like, this is 3 more parts, okay?
what's the water? It's not going to be an issue, right?
It shouldn't be an issue. If there is any issue, just close this button and save this number.
Okay.
This number on the bottom, okay?
So I guess we'll let the students know that then.
Yeah, just make sure it is in a. I know it's hard because it's raining right now, but try
Okay.
our best.
Okay.
But this is 15 after we had, okay?
Really appreciate it.
Like 15, so about 5.
Yeah, that's good. I really appreciate it. I'll give. Oh, he's not here. I just remembered. Remembered the other.
The other
yeah.
group? They're not here yet?
I mean, oh, did they just come? Oh, wow. Maybe they just came. I think they just came. So I'll let them know.
Okay.
You can go to Africa now.
Yes.
It'll take
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you
all
so
the
much.
best. No problem.
Thank you.
Students like the penguins, by the way. If you turn right, they see the penguins.
Okay. I'll try my best.
But no pressure. No pressure. Take care.
Okay. You too.
Okay. So practical 38, you can make your way. Practical 40, I'm going to be giving you parking passes. Those who asked for them, can you please come to the front? You need one? So just make sure that you try to keep them a bit dry. I know it may be hard, but if you find it difficult for it to be scanned, there's a code at the bottom that you can make note of. I give you 3. Who else needed parking pass? 2 more groups, right? I had 2 more people though.
Really good.
Hey, brother. No problem. 1 more person. Yes, okay. So we have only can you pass this? Okay. Now folks, we have only 5 brochures that we can use, i.e. maps. I'll help guide you guys where we need to go. But in the meantime, if I could give maybe 4 to a group of you guys, that way you can all just essentially follow me in the directions I provide. I'll just need 1 just in case. I'll give you guys accordingly. In groups, do you guys want to be in like groups of 4 to 5 if possible? I'll try to grab an extra few brochures if needed. But I'll start off with your side. Recall from the groups that you were in lab, and maybe that will make things easier. Do you mind if maybe the 5 of you go together? Here you go.
Thank you.
No problem. The 4 of you, is it okay if you be all together with the?
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Would it be okay if the 4 of you are together? If you guys want to separate, that's also okay. And I actually know that you have technically your group right there, so you can actually be together with them. I'll give you guys 1 or 2. Now you guys can hopefully move forward. You guys can move forward. Yes, and
We
just
split up?
not split up. Just I need you guys to move a bit more forward so I could give the remaining groups a few more.
Okay, you want to give them both?
It's okay. It's okay. I appreciate it. No problem. You guys can get one. If you're comfortable, if you want to actually split into another, like we're in packs essentially, like the groups in the past. So you guys can go essentially try to move just a bit forward. But if you need to build, for example, go back to like another group, like or segment, feel free to go. That's okay. That's perfect. Waalaikum Assalam. How are you? Where's your team?
Right there, right here.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. So I have so here's one thing. As you know, they're wet, right?
Yeah.
So here's what we need to do. There, for those that are taking cars, I'll give you these two if you want the tickets, just temporarily.
Tickets for what?
This is like proof
parking.
confirmation.
Oh, parking.
Those are actually, let me give you the ones that are parking. Actually, can you grab these?
Yeah.
These are all for you, I believe. I just need one if I forgot to pass through. So
There are more or not?
they don't have
Any more?
like they only wanted to, they have a limited amount.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll give you mine actually.
That's fine.
Yeah, like in case because just in case.
One.
So 1, 2. By the way, because you're wet, I was asking them about the QR code.
Yeah.
If it's a problem, they just have to tell them the word or the letter, the code underneath.
Yeah, I'll just do it.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. There's one receipt there I want to just grab because I have them from another practical. Perfect. I really appreciate it. You have 4, right? Just to confirm, you have 4 in there.
Yeah,
You hold
5.
this for a second. I'm gonna put it under my couch so my laptop's thinking.
Sorry, you are blocking like the only entrance. If you're a student, can just go all the way inside and maybe get that fixturated inside. This is just the only entrance, and you're blocking.
Oh, there's not an alternative.
So this is the only entrance that people can go through. So as soon as you're past the green box, then you can go anywhere you want.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. Okay.
No worries.
So folks, for practical 40, let's move forward. I'll just confirm one thing. You have all the parking passes you need. Perfect. Okay, folks, let's go. Let's move forward now. Practical. Actually, before we move, any other questions? Well, I shouldn't. Any questions? Do you need anything, by the way?
No, I'm good.
Should we go forward or wait for you?
No, you guys go.
Okay. We'll go to the Tunda trek. So, practical 40. Practical 42, wait for your TA accordingly. Practical 40, let's move forward. I'm going to give you guys some instructions and we're going to go to the Tunda trek first. Hi there, I gave the students the brochures. If it's okay if I have one to guide, that'd be really appreciated. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So folks, let's go. Let's move forward. Yes.
Regarding the assignment, I forgot to mention.
Yeah, sorry, I heard a noise. Everything okay? You guys are okay, right?
Yeah, how's it ahead of us? I heard it too.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what.
Okay. Sorry, your question.
I was gonna say that regarding the assignment, you forgot to mention that we should do an introduction at the beginning of the assignment.
Listen, it's not like a formal lab. Are you talking about a formal lab report?
No, the lab 4.
Lab 4, no. Introduction isn't needed actually. It's just like figure captions, figures with the detailed captions.
Oh, okay, okay.
Unless it's changed.
I'll follow. I'm gonna use the washroom. Yeah?
No problem. Thank you.
Is there anything I can speak this morning?
I've actually come from the past, but we're trying to go to different exhibits, Tunda Trek, Africa, Australasia.
Okay.
So I'll be guiding the students accordingly, but we really want to appreciate the different thoughts and words of wisdom that perhaps you and many other zoo staff would be able to provide. So
That actually, we should be able to help you out, but I'm here to guide you through the zoo with all the construction.
Yeah.
But there should be other zoo volunteers around stationed who will definitely be happy to give you as much information as they have.
okay.
But since you want to start with the Australasia and the Tundra Trek, My advice would be to go back through here. I'll show you where, and you will come to the Amur tiger. And that tiger loves this weather. Our Sumatran tigers,
really?
not so happy. Yeah, well, it's Siberia.
Okay.
Siberian Amur tiger. It used to be, I'll give you a little bit of information in case there isn't anyone there.
You guys can come closer to actually listen in. And the tiger is also like available. It's like present today, right? Just to confirm.
It's here.
Yeah.
It's here.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay.
We lent one of our Amur tigers to the Calgary Zoo.
Okay.
Don't know when he's coming back, but we do have the other Amur tiger here.
Mm.
And the Amur tiger used to be called the Siberian tiger, but due to all of the illegal logging that went on, and stripped all of the trees from the area where they lived, and all of their smaller animals that they would feed on, because they are at the top of the chain,
Yeah.
they disappeared. So the area shrunk to a smaller area called Amur. It's no longer the large Siberian area.
Wow.
That's all due to the illegal logging that goes on between Russia and China. There are very few left in the world, like under 1,000 in the wild. So it's very scary. But if you come this way, and I'll show you.
I remember going to the tundra check go down that way.
Well,
Is it-
you're going to go around.
Oh, okay.
You can go that way, but then you'll miss going to the Amur tiger.
Oh.
Circle.
Okay.
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 So if you go here and cross the service road, you come right to the tiger
Oh, okay.
exhibit.
Okay.
Then when you go around, you'll come to the Australasia exhibit.
Okay.
And the kangaroos are not out either because they don't like this weather either. So they're off site. But you will be able to go into the Australasia pavilion.
Okay.
When you come out, look for the signs that say tundra.
Tundra. Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And that will take you to the polar bears, the Arctic wolves. They love this weather, so you're going to see them. And then you can come down to the Caribou Cafe, and
Okay.
there should be a volunteer there to direct you to the Americas,
Okay.
where you will see the otters swimming and alligators,
Wow.
caiman. You'll come out of that pavilion, go up our boardwalk, and you'll come to the Africa Pavilion. There is so much to see in the Africa Pavilion. You're going to love it.
I
The
hope so.
gorillas and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really appreciate it. I imagine everyone else appreciates this as well.
There will be people, there will be volunteers to give you information. For example, with the gorillas,
Mhm.
there's a station there and they will tell you all about it. And then throughout that Africa Pavilion, there will be people stationed there. They'll direct you to the giraffes. And
Oh,
then
okay.
our orangutan, you'll go to another pavilion for our orangutans. I hope you're here all day because there's so much to see.
I agree.
Stay dry, everybody. Get into those pavilions.
Thanks again.
Go this way.
Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Have a great time. Thank you. So, folks, we're just going to go and take a detour to see some armor tigers. I will say that there is a list of different organisms that I have for today. So we'll likely just briefly look, take photos if needed, but it's not part of the, I guess, like expectations for the lab. Assalamu alaikum. It'd be hard to see. Hopefully try to see if we can take some photos and videos. I don't think, well, we'll see. I haven't gone here actually, so I don't know if we will see them, but
I think one of them has died.
yeah.
The other one won't.
No, I didn't go this way. That's why. I don't know if we'll see if we can find it, but I don't want us to go too far away. Let's see here. Keep it coming, folks. Try to come as close as you can together so that way we can see the exhibits more closely. Huh?
Oh, there he is.
Oh, so interesting. Whoa. So let me just. Oh, other way, yes. You'll see some footprints as well on the ground. Oh, I don't know if we should. So that's your tiger, the Amra tiger, and so the zoo staff was just mentioning about conservation efforts. And for context, for your Lab 4 assignment, you could do a bit of homework if you want to actually look at this mammal, for example. It is an endotherm. It has fur on its on its skin, and that helps to regulate its temperature when it's in the cold. And it also has a layer of fat, as you can imagine, from its near its jawbone, and as it moves around, it's able to essentially think of it like a big cat. Navigate its environment while maintaining metabolic processes in its core. And so those are some things to bear in mind. As you can also imagine, it's eating something for itself nutritious as a carnivore. It's eating something that's perhaps high fat density, and that can also help maintain its energy storage during the winter, and different seasons really, especially outside in the wild. And speaking of this, the zoo staff mentioned about conservation efforts because apparently there's only 1,000 of them left, 1 in 1,000 here, but only 1,000 or less around the world. And they're secluded into in a small region in Siberia. And so this is something that we should actually come to appreciate, because how important it is indeed to maintain thermoregulation, but also conservation efforts for endangered species, which we'll see as well in other pavilions. So hopefully you can take a photo of this, appreciate it a bit, and we'll move forward now to the tundra trek. Any questions, folks? You can also take photos of different, I would say usually in the zoo, there'll be labels of the name, the scientific notation of different species. I don't see it here, but if we go down into the tundra trek and to other locations, pavilions, you'll see more details. And that's what you want to include in due time. Any questions, folks? Any questions? No?
Just how many grams of protein is in a tiger? That's
Well, I mean, if you want to become a tiger, that's one
There's
thing.
another one.
Really?
I gotta just.
Oh, that's good. We could take a photo. We'll go down there and see if we could take a photo or two. So there's also another tiger here in the snow. Keep going, no problem. Folks, please catch up. Please make sure that you're with the group, because otherwise you don't want to be lost in count. You can take photos. Come take photos here, because the tiger's also here in the snow. Ah. So as you guys can see as well, how it's just frisking and whisking itself, and with its fur, it's shaking its fur, as obviously it's in direct contact with the snow. And considering it's an endotherm, you obviously would imagine, like ourselves, in the cold as endotherms, wearing jackets, thick jackets, maybe second jackets on underneath ourselves, so that way we can maintain our core body temperatures. And so that's something to bear in mind, folks. So yeah.
tiger subspecies. The Amur tiger is the cold climate tiger.
Oh,
So tropical regions of the world.
okay.
These guys live in southeast Russia, northeast China, that area,
Okay.
where it does get in the winter. So she's really good with this weather.
Wow. That's interesting. Any questions for the volunteer here? No questions? Let's move forward then. Oh, look, this is exactly what we were just talking about. So I was saying about thermoregulation, right? Endotherm. But importantly as well, conservation efforts, as two dear volunteers have pointed out, you know, in terms of conservation, it is indeed an endangered species. And so bear in mind that when like a zoo, like Toronto Zoo, maintains a certain habitat for species to grow, survive, and thrive, it's very important not only for, maintaining the ambiance of the zoo and its natural environment, but importantly to maintain those species in the long run, right? Toronto Zoo is actually turning 50, if I'm not mistaken. So imagine for another 50 years, imagine like, you know, the same tiger or maybe many children or cubs of its of this female tiger could be produced to perhaps shift the curve or spectrum where it's less endangered and hopefully is able to thrive around the world. So that's a bit of conservation connected and integrated back to thermoregulation. Any questions, folks? No?
And further to that, while Mazzy is a geriatric tiger, she's beyond her breeding years. Toronto Zoo is going to have another Amur tiger breeding program. So the Sumatra tigers we have, they're also geriatric, a lot of old animals. They are being phased out of the zoo. So once our Sumatra tigers reach the end of their life, Sumatrans won't be replaced, but we are going to have the new Amur tiger breeding program.
Wow.
Just not with Mazzy because she's done her bit. She's an old lady now, she doesn't care about that anymore.
Any final questions, folks, before we move further? No? Let's go straight to the tundra check. Thanks again. Really appreciate the help. No problem. So we're going to get ourselves directed. As you can see, there are posts here. So you'll see directions. We're only going to 3 exhibits. Bear this in mind. It's a bit of a detour, but hopefully you got to appreciate, you know, different organisms live here at the zoo. We're going to the tundra trek. We're going to Australasia, and then we're going to go to Africa. I think Australasia appears closer, so we'll make our way there now. And so just bear in mind thermoregulation. Notice the change in temperatures, the different species that you see, and the different notes that I provide for you guys so you're all well aware of what you need to take photos of and what you need to describe as the details and features of these different species. I believe Australasia is down this way. We could go this way, folks. Yeah, like, oh yeah. Yeah. So now we're going to Australasia. Notice the change in environment. So I'll just want to highlight, folks, you'll see labels of certain organisms. Take a photo of them as you take the photo of the species. It's not here now. When we're inside, you'll see the species, hopefully. It's actually one of the ones I have to talk about with you guys, but when you see it inside, we'll discuss accordingly. Just bear in mind the different external and internal features that these organisms have. Some of them have thick fur linings. Some of them essentially bask in the sun. Some of them change in color to reflect and absorb certain rays of heat or essentially wavelengths of light. And some of them are also bred under UV or ceramic heat lights. So that way there's limited and efficient heating of these organisms. Okay. So you guys can make your way in. Notice the change in temperature. Notice the change in temperature, you guys, and there's the reason I say this, thermoregulation. Keep thinking about this, keep going in. Notice the change in temperature, thermoregulation, or like come to appreciate, you know, the change in environment, external temperature as well, right? So as you guys can imagine, we'll describe things a bit quietly, but as you guys can imagine, there are presently birds here from around the world, and reminder, Australasia reflects species that exist both in Australia and or in Asia. So just imagine the different species, the different ranges of environments, their thermoregulation or their modes of respiration as well. Here you're seeing a cockatoo, right? Likely at the top. I can't see, but maybe if you guys don't mind, I'll just come in a bit more. Sorry, guys. So that's the black cockatoo, right? The red-tailed black cockatoo right there. I actually don't have materials to share much. Maybe I saw some stuff. If there's any questions or any comments that you could share about these different species.
These guys are really loud, that I've learned, but and they don't stop. So these are the red-tailed black cockatoos living in Australia. They are a vulnerable species, so they are threatened. I think there's like 1,500 or so of them left in the wild. They can live up to 50 years, so you can listen to this for 50 years. We also have in here an echidna, who is another animal who's native to Australia. Does anybody know what an echidna is? What they look like? I have a picture here. It's
if you guys can move just a bit more.
Nocturnal. So she looks like a little hedgehog. She has spines. I have some. You want to see what?
Yeah.
But they are not hedgehogs. They do have spines. If you guys just leave it closed, but if you want to pass that around, you can have a look. This is what they're covered with, so you can see in the picture. They are not a marsupial, but they are a monotreme.
Okay.
Anybody know what that is? They actually are a mammal, but they lay eggs. So there is a platypus. Maybe you guys have heard of that. The echidnas are the same. They lay eggs and they hatch within about 10 days, and then they feed their young milk like mammals do.
That's amazing.
And she's usually hiding under the log there.
Ah.
She's not all that cooperative.
So that's another thing. You may find some species that also like to hide, or some that are well exposed to the environment. So just bear that in mind. We'll talk about, and I really appreciate the words of wisdom. And hopefully as we continue to move further, you'll notice where during the modes of thermoregulation, they want to either stay cool in the water, or sometimes bask in the sun to warm up, or at times hide in shallow or closed regions within their habitat. So that way they can accordingly manipulate their core temperatures, or essentially attenuate themselves like ourselves, like we're wearing jackets outside, and maybe some of you may have taken yours out, which you'll likely do inside because it'll be even a bit more humid. So bear that in mind, folks. If there's any more questions, amazing zoo staff here present as well, feel free to ask them accordingly. Thank you so much, both of you. So these are more birds. The birds aren't really focused on for your lab for assignment. Feel free to come in a bit more. You'll see, different types of birds here, but this is just an example again, folks. You'll see their first name or their common name, like the laughing kookaburra or kookaburra, essentially, and then underneath their scientific name. So just bear that in mind. You have it in English, French, and then the scientific name. Watch out, folks. We'll make some space. Folks, try to come in a bit more and try to stay together so that way we don't interrupt those that may be coming from regular admission or from the staff here at Toronto Zoo. So just come in a bit more away from the exits or entrances. Yeah, keep it up, you guys. If you need to also refill water, if you're not fasting, there's water there. Water fountains as well across the zoo. But if you need a drink, I recommend just bearing in mind we do walk quite a bit, so just bear that in mind, folks. As well, you have other plants here, ferns, plants that they essentially some organisms will eat, some will take shade in, and you have some of them already labeled as a fern here, for example. Which can be discussed, but it's not like an animal. Keep it coming. No problem. So you'll see like different types of pigeons and birds here, right? So that's something that you can also appreciate, the sizes of their bodies, of their feathers, the coloration of their feathers, their beaks. This isn't focused too much in thermoregulation for the lab, but bear in mind, like for the ibis, for example, its long beak helps it to catch small pieces of prey underneath within within a pool or within a lake. And it can also help to essentially take in certain nutrients along its beak, even like small fishes. Yeah, so I hope you guys can appreciate that. I think we have everyone here. I'm going to confirm if anyone's missing. You guys could stay here for just a moment. Well, hopefully you guys can appreciate the different mobilities. When you go into B-level courses like animal physiology, you guys will look at different birds or different mammals and organisms. Birds are often talked about because of their unique traits for respiration and metabolism. Let's move further now, though, in the meantime. And we're going to go to see some of the organisms that I've talked about thus far. That's also a nice cover photo, if you guys want to take it, of that bird right there. It's okay. So now I just want to make sure everyone comes close by. We'll be going first to the left, my left here. You see some nice turtles swimming already. But we'll be going left first. So just bear that in mind, folks. Okay, so I just have to share those specific notes with you guys. So we have this. Oh, actually, I was supposed to go there. Let me go. The I haven't seen the yabi before, but does anyone see the organism above? Remember, we're still in the Australasia exhibit or pavilion, but essentially the organisms that you see here are ectothermic. meaning that they would essentially be influenced, their core temperature, by the environment, as you can imagine here in the water. So they have appendages, which makes them different from other organisms that we've talked about thus far. They look like lobsters, right? But essentially they have what you could see around as pleopods, like swimming legs, for it to move in different directions. So, we have like our fingers, right, as discs to move and touch different things. But for these organisms, they actually walk with those pleopods, so they swim around different directions as you see them move. So that's something that you can help appreciate, not just from, but it's for them to be able to migrate and to collect food when needed. Let's see. And these are called great mothers. So it's actually my favorite species by name, or it's in its name at Toronto Zoo, because it's quite interesting. But nonetheless, that's a bit about what they are, ectothermic indeed. And usually for these types of organisms, they have to be, obviously, with the change in temperature of the environment, the environmental temperature has to be controlled, right? So like you may see in the background a thermostat or some tubes that essentially adjust or control or moderate and monitor the temperature of the water, so that way they don't run the risk of collapsing, dying, or especially if they're endangered, becoming extinct. So that's something to just bear in mind, folks. Any questions? You'll likely see many ectotherms around here that are in the water. Endotherms we'll see likely down there. So we'll move just a bit. I'll specify when the snakes we'll talk about as well are ectothermic, but we'll move forward now. So now the thorny stick, actually, this is more just for detecting purposes. I'll just show it if you don't remember. Here's an example of the thorny stick. You'll see a blend, right? Like inside here, if you turn around, so you'll see many of them actually. So they're like all like sticking towards the darker edge of the wood, which give you an idea as to actually. The idea is that they're blending with mimicry, right, on the wood if there's predators, for example, or an alternative function is that they want to cool down, right, with the shade. So that's something to bear in mind, that if you connect it in terms of their environment with their natural setting, and as it appears in the Asian continent, then they'll be, or actually in Australia and the islands, they'll be able to essentially maintain their temperatures as ectothermic organisms as well. Sorry, endotherm. There's so many of them. If you actually have a close look, there's a huge one. It's a white, huge one. Probably it's almost like 1.5 the size of my phone. So they're very big. But nonetheless, yeah. So these ones are called, yes, the McClay stretchers. I'm just gonna move a bit. Sorry. No problem. I want to give you guys space. I'll let you guys take photos and I'll talk about notes accordingly.
Oh, okay. Okay. What am I looking for? Oh,
So believe it or not, so actually you guys could take photos of the one down there. It's a lot of stick insects on the other side. But if I go back or and move forward. And here is, oh, you guys don't see the bearded dragon. Okay. So bearded dragon was also here from before, and maybe hiding, or maybe maybe it was taken from one of the zoo staff on the branch.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Perfect. Thanks for sharing. Because essentially, you'll notice this is a good example of thermoregulation, known for basking. So it's like tanning in the sun. There's no sun here, but the ceramic heat lamp serves that purpose. And so the idea is that it's thermoregulating as an endotherm. And uniquely, something to point out is that it actually changes in color. Once it changes, maybe let's make a bit more space, because just I don't want you guys to be too close to each other as well. But you guys, if you need to come close to take photos, you can. But the point I wanted to highlight is that let's see. Wombats, no. Yeah, changing in color. And typically, like as you can see in the appendages, they're darker, right? The feet, which helps for it also to absorb heat in through its feet or in other parts of its body when it becomes more darker. So that way it absorbs more light, right? As you can imagine, wearing a dark jacket in the summer makes you more hotter than wearing a lighter jacket or a pale one. So that's something that you want to keep in mind, as changes in color can be beneficial for these organisms. And similarly, how they interact with others as well. If it needs to cool down, it could go actually into one of those small burrows, like a cave, or even into the water if it's controlled to be cool, to cool it down accordingly. Your next, any questions, by the way, folks? Next is, as it's coming up, the fly river turtle. So you guys can take photos if you want of this one. It's ready for a selfie. Just before it leaves, sometimes it's like, biologists have to take often like photos at a right location, and it takes a bit of time. But these fly river turtles are, it's coming again, and you could see its morphology, looking at you guys as well. It's fully aquatic like a sea turtle. And interestingly, it has also a small, narrow range in which it's able to survive with a heat kept at 27 to 28 degrees. So this is an example of a homeotherm, because it needs to be able to maintain within the constant change in environment a constancy in its core temperature. So that's something to bear in mind. We'll move further now. Any questions? We'll be moving down to the other side. Folks, we'll be moving on to the other side. Faizan, Joshua, we'll be going this way now. Just bear in mind, folks, now we'll see other turtles. It's very similar. I don't think I have more extra details. Oh, it's a black tree monitor. It's not here, but it's hiding somewhere else. I want to know if any of you can see it. These are just small turtles as well. The black tree monitor is thin but long. It looks like this amphibian here, or lizard. Let's see. It may actually move further. It may not be here right now. Let's see.
Oh, I think it's up there. Oh, back there.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. It's like peeking at you guys. So if you guys have a look, that black tree monitor is the one that's like looking, peeking, like try to see like if you guys can see it, So the black tree monitor is something also ectothermic. It moves from cooler to warmer areas within its exhibit, and they're also controlled in temperature. So that's something that you want to bear in mind. Also considering the black skin, it can also help absorb readily the heat when needed, and it can move up and down to different locations. Folks, let's try to make space actually for the individual coming with the baby. And I hope we can make space. Folks, let's make space. A parent is coming in. No problem. Let's just bear in mind in case others come in as well. So we just saw the black tree monitor. Now, anything else? And it also basks, as I was talking about, it has a dark skin, so it can help absorb readily heat when it needs to, either at the top near the ceramic light, like around here, or if it wants to cool down, it'll go down towards that small plastic leaflet. Or it may even hide under the shade down there. So you can imagine like turtles and a black tree monitor, they don't like negatively interact, hopefully, right? So it shows you that different organisms can interact cooperatively, positively with each other, just like in the natural environment. And once again, then this is the red-bellied short-necked turtle. Just to point out that you have the English, French, and Latin, our scientific name, presented for these organisms. The law-banded iguana, we'll see twice. I don't have much though to state about it, but if you wanted to have a look, that's your iguana right there on the side. It's eating herbs, vegetables, so like something that you guys can also consider for this herbivore. It also has a ceramic, actually has a light source as ourselves that we use in our homes, right? I don't have much though to specify of it, but nonetheless, we'll see a multitude of different species here as well. We have, I believe this is exothermic, both of them. Perfect. Thanks a lot. So, example, as we move further ahead, you also see, by the way, statuses for endangerment for some of these species. So bear that in mind. Some of them are, it's not just worth millions of dollars, but it's more like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. But importantly, the sanctity of their lives is very important indeed. Now, when we go to the boa and the snake on my left and right, respectively, I want to just share the following. Both are ectothermic, and they move like the black tree monitor from one location to another to essentially modulate the changes in their temperature, their core temperature with the environment. So that way, let's say if they feel hot and they want to cool down, they'll go into the water. Or if they're feeling too cold, maybe like ourselves outside, then we would go, or it would go up towards the lamp or the light source, or it may actually bask accordingly. The difference between the emerald tree boa and the green tree python is actually the stripes. So the emerald tree boa has white stripes, as you can see also down there on the left branch, whereas here you'll see two different, what are they called? The green tree pythons that essentially have white dots, white yellowish dots around their skin. And so that's just a small slight note of differences morphologically or in their coloration. Like the pigeons and birds that you saw before, they have different colors, shapes, and sizes. But something to point out for these pythons or snakes is that beautifully they have similar thermoregulative properties of ectothermic traits, moving up and down to modulate or change their temperatures accordingly. Now, there's also the emerald tree boa here. If you missed it, there's also the boa banded iguana. It's actually moving up there. It's moving around. Now, that's a bit of what I want to highlight. Any questions, anyone? I'm going to just highlight a few other things for this organism here. And that's the wombat. So remember I said outside, there's a wombat. The wombat's coming out. Highly recommend taking a photo or two because sometimes it goes actually back inside. So it makes it a bit difficult to take photos accordingly. But nonetheless, you could see it going inside. It may want to go rest accordingly. Or it's maybe, yeah, it looks like it's going to rest here in front of you guys. I'll just move back and share some details for you guys. As you can see, has dark fur, thick layer of blubber, or like, it's not really blubber, but fat essentially on its outer coat. And so it's an endotherm. And just like us mammals, it's able to essentially maintain its core body temperatures, be it through eating, the shrubbery that is available here, going into the water, if it's cool or if it's hot, accordingly being able to monitor this. And even the zoo staff likely will be able to actually record these data, like the temperatures that these species and organisms maintain, so that way they could accordingly adjust the environment when needed. Because even for endotherms, the water could be adjusted to help them cool down, or shade or additional infrastructure structurally could be added in. For example, last week, this actually wasn't here. So this entire barrier wasn't here. And in fact, perhaps they're preparing for another wombat to come in or another species. So the idea is like it could go, the wombat, to other locations as well. It could go through the tube, hide into the burrow, as I mentioned, or under the shade, or eat some food, and accordingly change its environment or change its core temperature as an endotherm. Any questions, folks? We have another exhibit just before we leave Australasia. Any questions before I move further? I'll just see if there's any extra points. It is nocturnal as well, which is actually one reason as to why you can see it's a bit tired, sleepy, meaning that it wants to also like be more active at the night when it's more cooler and avoid the heat. Interestingly, there's actually an AC here. It may be hard to feel now, but maybe they're adjusting the temperatures for the setting today in the exhibit as more things are being added in. But you can also note the light change, right? Inside there, it was more darker, more controlled, whereas the high, like the surface of plantation, like right above Kumars, sorry, I don't want that to fall on you. Sorry. But essentially you have the natural environment present and even the light that's able to go through like a greenhouse for plants. So just bear that in mind, folks. They also have labels for the plants here as well. And you can just imagine how still that wombat is. For a moment, you could even tell perhaps it was actually a real living organism, but it actually just moved for a moment. So I almost thought it was also almost like an avatar, but you have that one sleeping, you have this one present here. Perhaps interactions between the two will be of benefit down the road, but with this in mind, we can move further ahead. If there's any questions, let me know. They'll have different unique features, as I mentioned, the fur coating, the also whiskers to help reduce any contamination from food or particulates getting into their nostrils when they smell things. So we're into the last exhibit within Australasia, within this pavilion. Oh, sorry. So please feel free to come in closer or come in more away from the exit. I'm just going to move a bit further up. We have this island skink. I don't know if oh, it's right there. Another important thing is that, oh, you guys can all come in. Feel free to come in. Feel free to come in, folks. This skink, Suleiman Island skink, is, sorry, the Suleiman Island skink is under the red UV light, meaning that actually doesn't see the red light, so we see it, but it doesn't see it itself, but it's able to absorb essentially the red UV, so that way it could accordingly, as this ectotherm, bask and essentially heat up when it's feeling too cold, as the external environment indirectly influences its core temperature. If you guys want to come in closer, you can. I would just say watch out that door, because in case anyone comes in, you don't want to get hit. So that's a bit, just once again, of this ectotherm. It's under the red UV, heating up in the external environment. There's also, changes in the temperature that's also attenuated or checked by the zoo staff. As you can see, there's a door right there, so they could even see through a small glass mirror how the Suleiman Island skink is. Maybe endangered. I'm not sure if it shows it here, but we'll see other details. Maybe if not this organism, of other ones as well. They could grow up to 81 centimeters long, so almost a meter wide, which is like maybe 2 to 3 feet long. So pretty big, actually. We'll move further to the Suleiman Island. These ones are and subtle. So you'll see them sometimes often hiding in shade to cool and to actually like a homeotherm rates temperature constantly and finally. You guys, it's a white one, small white one. There's one also here, finally, looking down. I think you guys saw it. Yeah, so this is a good comparison. And I actually showed this to folks last week of like physiological comparisons. Let's say, for example, one leaf frog was above near the top of the cave, essentially, or in its exhibit, and another was under. Idea is that if you wanted to do an experiment and see the changes in, let's say, protein expression or different morphological changes that exist within these leaf frogs, then you could do so and maybe extend these results to how this could reflect changes in their natural environment. So that's something that you can highlight, one that could be basking still like hidden, maybe also trying to cool down, but you could definitely see one that was hiding there, likely to even be more cooler indeed. So with that, we're now going into the Great Barrier Reef. Now, for those that don't know, can I ask how many of you do know about the Great Barrier Reef? How many of you have heard about it? Show a raise of hands if you've seen or heard about the Great Barrier Reef, either from your modules or from lecture, or documentaries, or anything. How many of you have heard about this reef? Raise your hand. No? Okay. So about like maybe a quarter of you know, or a third of you know a bit about it. Essentially, it's also, believe it or not, an ectotherm. It is a living organism. And within its habitat, you'll find many other organisms, fish, crustaceans, etc., that will live and be optimal in their survival here. Now, this habitat is actually very endangered, specifically because of the different pollutions that exist within water reefs around the world and within coastal regions, around Australia, for example. And something to point out is that, at least for the benefits that they provide, it includes shelter, minerals, nutrients for absorption, etc., and protection from predators like sharks. But something to point out is that they are decaying with water pollution, and really some examples that can be included is like pH, salinity, and essentially acidity with pH, and salinity over salinity, a lot of salt being added into different deposits around the reefs. The effects of these additions or pollutions into water streams around the world, or even just into the air and then getting into the water, are manifold. And actually, a sign of these reefs dying is when they become so white, like skull white, that they have pores. Not like this, which is more like actually, this could be a good example where they start to crystallize. And so that's something that obviously can have drastic effects, because now not only do they lose the fishes and other organisms around them many nutrients that could be available, but also an additional shelter from predators, right? So like these fishes it will be more difficult for them to travel or to find shelter and refuge away from harmful organisms. So that's something to bear in mind. Pollution in the ecosystem can have devastating effects, and you could see other fishes just around there that could also be greatly impacted as well. Because consider the fact that some of these smaller fishes are fed up by bigger fishes. And so the impacts on the smaller ones within the reefs, let's say if the reefs die, then the smaller fishes and crustaceans, zooplanktons as well die. And accordingly, these larger fishes can be jeopardized accordingly. So just bear that in mind, folks. I also have the pot-bellied seahorses here that you could see. I have a bit to talk about, I believe, here about them. You could see their morphology. You can just actually appreciate if you guys come here, how its appendages on its axis around its spine, essentially, or around its skeleton, are able to vibrate continuously in multiple directions. It's able to move up and down, left and right. forward and back, even though it doesn't have arms, right? And that's just, subhanAllah, like amazing in its ability to move and migrate accordingly. Let's see if there's anything else. Once again, we won't see the kangaroo, but we talked about the frogs, ectothermic. I didn't talk about the Suleiman Island frog, just to point out, they also do evaporative cooling. So like how we sweat, right? We let air drops with air, droplets of serum and water come out of our bodies when we sweat. That helps us cool down. And so similarly, frogs do the same. And sometimes certain organisms can also change in color accordingly, like these frogs as well. And then at cool nights, the heater comes on and ambient temperature in the exhibit is controlled at room temperature. And the chiller for these ectotherms is set at 18 degrees. Interestingly, they're like poikilotherms, or actually they are indeed like Daphnia, poikilothermic. And you could see, actually reminds me of the group that we had earlier. It looks like there's one that's pregnant here. So for those that had a pregnant Daphnia, this could actually relate to you in a unique way, settling down and has a very enlarged belly. So it's likely undergoing pregnancy and may actually give birth in a few weeks, if not in a few days. So quite interesting indeed. Now, if we move further to the right, we're going to see some jellies. We're going to see some jellies, folks. Those are real jellies. They're technically not fishes, but these beautiful crustaceans are able to, move without a brain, up and down, left and right, with the antennae that they have around them. And yes, they could still harm, like the boxer jellies are actually one of the most poisonous organisms that if you essentially get contacted with them in a beach, and I hope none of you do, but essentially you actually need emergency first aid in the next, really in the next few minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, you need to be treated immediately. Likely with an injection, so that's just something to bear in mind. Beautifully, you also notice the shapes of the ripples. Some of them are like spherical, right? As you could see, like this one right there, whereas others are more like cuboidal. You could see how it's enveloping like a polygon. It's either making the shape of a square or of an octagon, which is so beautiful. And just imagine all of these organisms like living under the sea. Right? So many organisms that we still don't know, 70% of the ocean floor. And so that's something that you can just imagine, even the thermoregulative patterns that these organisms have could really, it may be very difficult to really appreciate. Also, some of these organisms undergo bioluminescence. There's an example of jellyfish there. Have any of you heard about GFP, by the way? How many of you have heard of GFP, green fluorescent protein? That's actually extracted. It helps let you see things UV as green, under UV, like green colonies for bacterium, which I'm also TAing actually. The idea is that GFP was actually taken from jellyfishes, right, under the sea, because some of them could also fluoresce. And so if you take a protein, let's say from some of these organisms, like molecular biology, like artificially, you can actually get unique proteins of interest for unique environments and settings. So now, like you could just see that blue jellyfish there, you can now see many blue proteins as an example, or in our case, in the labs that you'll likely have at UTSC, you'll see many green fluorescent colonies, proteins, and other organisms as well, including zoo fish as well. So with that, we are done, the Australasia Pavilion. Any questions, folks? No questions? Folks, let's go forward then to the tundra trek. We're gonna likely have to zip up our clothes, our jackets. Wait just a bit. I just want to make sure everyone's here. Oh, it's not really? Okay, go ahead then. No, it's not really. Okay. So feel free to go further. You guys can walk. I just want to make sure everyone's here within the lab. And if you have questions, I'll more than happily try to answer them for you guys. Folks, practical 40, let's keep going. No. Thanks a lot. Sorry, not me. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Thanks again. Okay, folks, so we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Perfect. Okay, so we're going straight to the tundra track. I believe we're going to the left. So we're going to see 3 different species, ideally. We're going to see snow geese. We're going to see, actually, we may see more. We'll see polar bears, hopefully Arctic wolves, and snow geese. But before I talk any further, any questions from what you've seen thus far? Any questions regarding like any missing notes that they may have not caught from my discussions? Okay, so with this, we're gonna go to the tundra trek, and we'll see the organisms that we can. Usually I prefer to go to the tundra trek first because there's fewer organisms, and then we are able to spend more time in other exhibits and pavilions. But let's see how much we could do, and hopefully we'll inshallah see if we can be done around 1 o'clock. If you want to stay further, you can, of course. And I would say actually try to get as many photos as you need before you leave, essentially. A reminder, the lab 4 assignment is due 48 hours by the end of the practical, so just bear that in mind. As well, you may see squirrels around. You can take photos of them as well, because technically that also counts for thermoregulation. They have black fur, they're endothermic, and so you want to actually, if you wanted to consider them, you could take a photo, and that could count if needed. Just bear in mind that you're able to answer all questions in the lab manual to describe the different details that you've seen from the notes I've discussed, from the material in your lab manual, from the lecture material, and you can use the internet for further data. Keep coming, folks. Yes.
So if we use the internet for like further detail, do we cite it?
No, you don't have to. But I would encourage you if you could. I would recommend it. Some of the details you'll already find here, and as I talk about them, you could record the details accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay. So let's see. So now we are here in the tundra trek.
Oh my.
And as you can see, those are Arctic wolves. They're hunting, they're racing towards different locations. Sometimes you'll find them as groups. As you can see, they're joining their group, essentially, their hub, like ourselves, right? And their packs, essentially. So a few things to point out. If you notice the one that's moving to the left right now, you'll notice that they actually have black fur, black skin, above which is white fur. So I want you guys to think about that, because something to point out is that they are endothermic, and like the bearded dragon, like the black tree monitor, they are able to actually absorb heat within their black skin. So think about that for a moment, because yes, they have white fur, but they also have black skin underneath, and that helps actually absorb the heat during like the summer, or during the more warmer environments, and even from the sun itself, even during the cold. Another thing in terms of like their hunting behaviors or mating patterns, they often are in groups as packs. So that's something that you'll notice. Sometimes they're isolated, sometimes they'll move together, and that has different unique interactions and different roles altogether. They're also smaller than the gray wolf. with a smaller snout and ears to reduce heat loss. Their fur sheds in the spring. As you can see, if you guys wanted to take a closer photo, they're coming, two of them here, and they're bracing, you know, to go to a certain location. They have a thick layer of body fat, also important, with a short, dense undercoat of their white hairs or white fur. And there's waterproof goth hairs as well. But nonetheless, like think about the white hair, for example, that also has a function for thermoregulation, because if they wanted to, let's say, blend in the environment, in the snow, away from potential prey, so that way they could accordingly catch them on camouflage or be protected away from predators, then this is a unique trait that has been created for them. Let's see if there's anything else. So they also sleep with their tail over their nose, so warm air heats up around their nose and paws. Think of it like cats as well, very similar indeed. We saw the tigers, we saw these Arctic wolves. You'll notice some similar traits between cats and dogs respectively, and unique traits that reflect the Arctic wolves and the amber tigers that we just touched upon earlier at the very beginning. We can move further though. We may see snow geese. I think they're there. If not, we'll see an American bald eagle. So keep it going, folks. Okay, good job, you guys. If you have any questions, let me know. You'll also see the label of the name of the Arctic wolf in Latin as well. So just remember to take note of the details that I described. You can actually go this way. For you guys can come this way. Really, because this will actually bring us closer to the snow geese right here, or in this case, the snow goose. So you see two snow geese. Actually three. Perfect. Okay, and there's one like right here up close. Right. It's a bit hard to see, but like once again, they have white feathers. You know, and a white thick overcoat, right? Feathers. So if you guys want, you can also see on the other side. You'll see two of them above like a lake or above a pond. I guess it's technically ice now, but the point is that they're white. They have white feathers, like the birds that we saw earlier today. The difference in their colorations for feathers is also important for thermoregulation, such that these endotherms are able to repel essentially extra or sorry, I'm trying to pass through into the UV, like to reduce the amount of heat absorbed, and essentially that helps control their core temperature, so that way they don't have to essentially depend overly from the environment, and also just focus on metabolic processes for adjusting and modulating their core temperatures. Yeah, and you could also take note of the facts, the scientific name also provided. And so hopefully you guys can also appreciate these details. They also migrate, you know, quite a lot around the world, or at least in this case, oh, and it just made a sound, it made a clack. Like they do migrate. I thought there was a detail about them. They fly south. They fly in different locations essentially. So you can imagine how perfect it is, this environment, for them to be able to maintain, you know, their thermoregulation within the winter cold, just like the Arctic wolves and just like the polar bears that we're about to see shortly. So let's move further. Any questions, folks? Any questions? All right. It's okay. It's okay. Alhamdulillah. No, I'll be okay. Inshallah. I'll be okay. Inshallah. I appreciate it. This is an example of a burrow that the Arctic wolves would use, and an idea for you guys to also think about for endothermic organisms, that if they are feeling too cold or too hot, then they may want to go into different environments to thus stabilize their core temperatures and not overheat nor overcool or get too cold, essentially. Like ourselves, you don't want to have hyperthermia, where there's like essentially you getting too hot, or hypothermia, where you get too cold, likely in the winter. So those are just some nuanced points to just highlight for you guys. And you may also see organisms around, like sometimes the ducks are here, mallard ducks, the common ducks that you see with the green foreheads and the yellow bills. And you'll see other organisms likely around, and that's something that you just want to appreciate. Like even the trees themselves are organisms, right? The plants, the shrubs, etc. So hopefully, either when we come back or around the zoo, you'll see other organisms that you could take photos of, even if they're not included in today's practical. Oh, so I'm so happy. This is my first time for me to actually show you guys the caribou. So there is actually, if you looked up there, it may be a bit hard, but there's a caribou there, like a deer, right? If you just try to look a bit further in, gonna see if I could get it. It's essentially underneath, and it's eating right now, pretty much around there. And they're endothermic with a dense woolly undercoat. You guys could come a bit closer if you're having trouble or difficulty seeing it. If you're wearing small shoes, just watch out the water. Boots should be okay here. But the idea is that if you have waterproof boots, by the way, the idea is that these caribou have a dense woolly undercoat like the polar bears, but obviously they're different, right? In color and thickness. They also have thick fur in the winter that sheds in the spring. They migrate in the winter as well to different locations, and that also could help you appreciate the different thermoregulative properties that these caribou have, as well as guard hairs that will be able to, that are beneficial for them to remove any debris on like a food, for example, off of their like nostrils or snout, and to essentially protect themselves from other like foreign pathogens, for example. Now, I don't believe the polar bear is here. Do you guys see it? No? Let's go down the other way then. You guys will likely see the polar bear soon. Interestingly, female polar bears make snowbanks, so think of it like a nest, like how birds do, or eagles. But in this case, even though we may see the American bald eagle there, the idea is that you will come to appreciate certain patterns and that are unique for these types of organisms. So that's your American bald eagle hiding right there. It looks a bit tired, I must say. It could have been with the cold and the you know, like essentially the environment. You may also notice how it's like how its neck is turning. Quite interestingly, it's actually facing us from its back, so it's almost turning, you know, almost 180 degrees in its neck. Once again, you'll see the name, bald eagle, Aladdin, that you need to also include, remember folks, both the common and scientific name in your figure caption and of the details that I've touched upon there, where you found them in the exhibit, as detailed as you can for your figure caption and for your paragraph description for each of the three organisms. So the Latin name, the common name, where you found it in the exhibit needs to be included, as well as the, if it's a poiculotherm, homeotherm, endotherm, ectotherm. That needs to be included, those traits, in the figure caption. And then the paragraph description needs to include all other details, including the ones I mentioned. Figure caption, folks, remember, you need to include a common name, a scientific name, as you see both here with my two fingers. Then in terms of where you found it in the exhibit. And then the third point or fourth point is thereafter, talking about the traits. Is it a poikilotherm? Is it an ectothermic poikilotherm? Is it a poikilothermic ectotherm? Or is it a homeothermic endotherm, for example? So you want to describe these categories clearly in your figure caption, and then all those details expanded in your paragraph description for each image. So bear that in mind, folks, including where you would find it in the real world, how and why it thermoregulates. And if there's any other questions, feel free to ask. And any other points that you want to highlight from what I've talked about today, you can do the same as well. Now we can move further. Any questions, folks? In the meantime, take care, Bald Eagle. So any questions, folks? No questions? If you missed the Latin name for the Arctic wolf, it's here. Canis lupus hudsonicus. You guys could take photos. Remember to take the Latin name as well when you're putting it in your figure caption or scientific name. They include like Latin, Greek, Roman, Arabic origins. So that's something to point out in case you're wondering, and even Malay. So now let's see if we find a polar bear. It's possible the polar bears actually moved to another location, but have a look and appreciate. You can compare with the absence of polar bears here to the presence of Arctic wolves down there, how they're like basking and lying down, like, you know, like dogs, right? So you could also take the photo here. If you haven't taken a photo as of yet of your of the Arctic wolves, this is the perfect place to do so. They're resting. Can you imagine resting in the cold like this? You know, so this is a perfect thing to actually appreciate. Some organisms are able to do this out in the cold, right? Out in the wild, out in the cold, without being in shelter. They're able to live in and breed and to rest and live in such environments regularly 24/7. So that's something to point out. And some of them interact with humans as well in positive, cooperative manners as well. Maybe, yeah, I believe so. Sorry, Jazakumullahu Khairan for pointing that out actually as well. Let's see. It is a bit hard to tell. We'll be able to see on the other side though, I believe. So let's have a look on the other side. But imagine, see, we just went into like a miniature cave. We would feel warmer there, but amazingly, the Arctic wolves don't mind resting down there, right? So that's something maybe you want to consider. Oh. We have a question. We're here from UTSC for BIOA02, and we wanted to look at the polar bears.
Unfortunately, that's up to the polar bear. She wasn't played shy yet, right?
I see.
She wasn't this morning, so we're hopeful that she'll come out again.
Okay.
But she's making a small appearance through that opening over there.
I see.
But we can't guarantee that she'll come out when you're here.
Yeah. How would we go to that side?
That construction's blocked that off. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So it wouldn't be like curved around the other way.
Well, go down a little bit far down there, but that's it.
Okay.
That's the backtrack where it came from.
Okay. Let's see if we can any of you from the edge down there see the polar bear? Maybe in the water or? No?
There's no polar bear in the water here.
Oh, okay.
It's in behind that opening there.
Oh.
Unfortunately, because of the construction, we can't get access to that area right now, and that's where she's chosen to hide.
Okay.
She will come. I don't know. Maybe it's like, you know, those famous movie stars when they go, no autograph. I don't know. She's a bit of a diva. She only likes to come out when there's enough people to warrant the fact that she's, you know, going to come out and make an appearance. That's my theory. I don't think that holds true, but you know, I know she's there. I know her big brother is with her.
Oh,
Normally that wouldn't be the case, but we've introduced them to one another. And it's gone well. They're okay. They play with each other just fine, but in the wild, that would not be the case at all. Males and females would keep their distance from one another. But these two seem to like each other, so it's good.
oh, that's amazing. Okay, so maybe in the meantime, I'll just touch a bit about these polar bears. Actually, maybe if you could, if there's any points that you want to share about thermoregulation or even just about these polar bears at all.
Okay. One thing that's very concerning right now is the lack of sea ice, because our polar bears hunt. They're what we call a lazy hunter. They will go and they will find a seal hole in the ice, and they'll sit down next to the seal hole. When the seal comes up for air, they will grab the seal, eat it, and digest the blubber. They're after the blubber because they have to pack on a lot of pounds. And in order to hunt the seal, they have to go far out onto the ice shield, but it's getting further and further away. So the melting and the warming and everything else that's happening is making the sheets farther for them to go and hunt. And as a result, some of them are actually dying en route to the areas where they hunt. We're stressing that, you know, we can do small changes in our habits, things like that. We can recycle, we can do all these different things to help the polar bear to prevent the continuation of global warming for that very reason. Female polar bears, for instance, need to have a certain amount of fat stores before the egg will embed in the uterus. Otherwise, it will not. It will abort. And as a result, if that happens often enough, the population will not increase. Their milk, for example, like take your milk out of the fridge. What percentage of milk fat is in your milk? 2, 1, sometimes skim milk. I don't know why people drink that, but anyway, just have water instead. It's 1%. Any idea how much the milk fat is in a female polar bear? The content.
I'll go with 20%.
Okay. Any other guesses? You're very close. 32.
Wow.
32%. So as a result, she needs all those fat stores to be able to support and den her little ones, because she will den until they're born. And then once they're strong enough, then she goes to teach them how to hunt and so forth. They stay with her until approximately age 4 before they're out on their own. So our Juno, who is deciding that, hey, I don't want to come out, she's 10. So if you do see her, she'll make an appearance, hopefully, and not make a liar out of me. But we also do train our polar bears, not in the sense that we don't want them to balance balls on the end of their nose. We train them so that the veterinarians can have a look at them. So at the sound, at a certain click, they will stand up on their hind legs, and then we can do a body check to make sure that there's no wounds or anything like that. We do blood draws on them. The vet will be behind a screen. Another vet will be treating her with some of her special food, romaine lettuce, by the way, and she'll put her paw into a metal cuff. The blood is drawn from between the knuckles or between the toes, and she's used to that. And that's also probably where they gave her injections for COVID and all the other things that she has to go through, and for rabies and so forth. They also treat them to open their mouth so that they can see the dentition, and turn their heads to one side so they can look inside their ears and their eyes. And it's all done with signals. So they've been trained to do that.
That's amazing.
And they're also keen. Like, I don't know if you guys are way too old for this, but when you were really little and you were learning how to walk and it's starting to rain, but we're tough, you had those special socks. Remember, with all the little rubber nubbies on the bottom so that you wouldn't slide? Their paws are designed in such a way that they have a similar feature on the pads of their feet, because they're constantly walking over ice. And I want the people that are right there at the front to be particularly careful, because you guys are not polar bears. You don't have that advantage. So don't slip. And that keeps them a good grip. Do you have any questions? I've been doing all the talking. Awesome.
I think I'll highlight a few things, maybe about 2 more minutes in case the polar bears come
You know
out.
what? Yes, you hang out here and try and make a little bit of noise because she might hear it and think, oh, I have an audience. I don't know if it'll work or not.
Let's see.
But also when she disappears like that, frequently the kitchens are back there where they bring them their food. And also their vet might be doing something with them in the background. We don't know that. So we're not privy to that information. So she may be having a blood draw or something like that while we're here chatting about her. So hopefully she'll come out. Here, I'm not-
We really appreciate the support, the words of wisdom.
Oh, well. Anyway, enjoy. Come on out, Juno.
And so maybe just to highlight amazing, pointers, because this actually gives us insight as to what it means to be, in the Toronto Zoo, be it as, a biologist or a veterinarian, to actually be able to treat and adjust and monitor the success of the livelihoods of these species. So for the polar bears, like the Arctic wolves, they also have thick undercoats, a white fur above, black fur, black skin beneath. And that also helps to maintain and absorb heat, as these endotherms would do. As well, if it needs to, cool down or go into the water and wants to bask, as it's done in the past, they'll go up to the top of its shelter above the rocks, do a bit of what the Arctic wolves have done, as you could see behind you. As well, yes, they have a thick layer of blubber, as the lady pointed out, about 11 centimeters thick, which indicates to you how much and how important it is to maintain fat storages for females and males, especially when they're hunting out or when they're trying to reproduce or essentially take care of their younglings or their cubs. So that's something to bear in mind, especially for these polar bears. And hopefully you can appreciate the roles of thermoregulation, not just for reproduction, but also the conservation of these species. Because if, for example, they're in the Arctic and they're feeling way too cold and they're unable to pass through, let's say, the water, the ice-cold water, then with the limited amount of ice, solid ice around them, it restricts not only their mobility and their habitat, but importantly, their ability to survive and to escape and grab in certain levels of fish, of other organisms to essentially survive in the environment. So just bear that in mind, folks. We can go forward, and it's okay. We've seen more than 3 species within, or organisms within this pavilion. We saw the snow geese, we saw the Arctic wolves, we saw the caribou briefly, and you also saw the American bald eagle. So that's 4 species already. And some of them include like bonus species that we've just touched upon, like the bald eagle. So don't worry too much, is what I would say. But have a keen look to see if you find other organisms around, especially those that interact like with the Arctic wolves. No problem. We've been able to see quite a number so far, so we really appreciate it. Thank you. Normally, by the way, folks, the polar bears will actually come down here. They'll sit down and bask or like cool down, or sometimes be here and sleep. So that's another thing to bear in mind. Ursus maritimus is the Latin name, or the scientific name, in case we come back, or if you stay and come back here later on, you can. But we're now on to our last pavilion. So we're going to go all the way back. And we're hopefully going to go from such a cool location to a much warmer one in due time. So let's go up. I'm just going to remind you guys, we saw many organisms thus far. We saw 4 here in the tundra truck, but at least about 20 in the Australasia pavilion. So just bear that in mind, folks. You have a number of organisms that are ectothermic, endothermic, poikilothermic, homeothermic, and you should be able to describe not only where you found them in the exhibit with your photos, or videos, but also to point out to the different functions that you could use from their thermoregulation in the real world?
You find the toilet for everyone.
Mm.
That was last time.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it like stood up too. Yeah.
If you guys, do you mind if they actually take a photo of your photo? Is that okay?
It's topic to anybody.
Yeah. If you guys actually wanted to see a polar bear, gentlemen from our lab, John or Yahya has actually taken photos from the past. You guys can have a photo of his if you wanted to use the polar bear as an example. I'm just trying to remember something. I had my backpack somewhere.
Oh no!
Anyhow, that's a trip for me, not for you guys. So don't worry. I'm just trying to think. Where did I put it?
And the fishes. You dropped it right there.
Yes, we're to fly to River Turtle. So
By the table over there.
yes, so don't worry, folks. Well, before we go to Africa, we're gonna go have just a brief pit stop by Australasia. And if you guys wanted to take extra photos there of the birds, for example, you can as well. Or if you want to take a photo of this black squirrel, that can also be one for you guys too. Bonus organism.
The organism total, right? It's not per environment.
3 in total. Ideally one per environment. No.
Africa. I gotta get going.
That's okay.
The hippo and this.
If you know that your way back, I don't mind.
Yeah, because I have to.
What time do you have to be?
12:30.
12:30? 12:30 is maybe a bit tough.
I got a call,
Okay, I'll give you directions and you can go up. And then I'll show you, and then you could come back down when you need to. You essentially go up. Once you see the bridges, you just go all the way up. You turn a left and you go all the way down. Then you'll make a way to the right where you see gorillas and you can take.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. But do you know directions to the African pavilion?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll once I find once we're around Australasia, you can go. If there's a closer opportunity based on the map or based on directions from the crossroads, you'll be able to go accordingly.
Yeah.
If anyone needs to leave early for whatever reason, just let me know and I can provide you insight as to how you could go easily, hopefully. So that way you don't have to worry about rushing. We do have an hour, which is suitable for African pavilion, and we may see additional species in the meantime. But once again, if you have to leave to come back to UTSC around 1 o'clock, then let me know. And then hopefully you could go straight ahead from us and then be able to complete the lab sooner. But ideally, we want to go as a group. So just try to do things as you can cooperatively.
Because Mahab and Bishop got a lab.
Okay.
So,
At like 1 o'clock? Okay, that's okay. I understand.
also, some papers, science papers as well.
Okay. Let me just see if I can grab. Okay, we're gonna go this way all together. Okay. So if the three of you want to go together, I'll just show you. We're good.
African.
Yeah, you guys are gonna go up. Follow the directions. There's a bridge. Go up. So follow with me in my head. Bridge. Go up, all the way up. Turn left. Go down. Turn right where the gorillas are, and then you'll see the pavilion.
Okay.
Take photos of the gorillas. Bishop, yourself. Yes. So take photos of the gorillas. Folks, if anyone has to leave like as soon as possible, immediately, just follow along. I have to quickly grab my things. So we'll just, most of us will just have to wait just a bit. But briefly, those who have to immediately leave for our practical at 1 p.m., just follow my instructions. You're going to go up to Africa. You're going to go turn a right here. You're going to go up a bridge. It's going to be a long walk, so brace yourselves if you're in a rush. Walk up, turn left, go down, all the way down, look at your right, you'll see a gorilla house. That's the place that you're gonna go into, and I want you to take photos of the gorilla if you can. There's multiple gorillas, so just take a photo of one at least, and think about what I've talked about: thick, dark fur, as well as a dark skin color, and see about its mobility, its ability to eat certain things, and how it would be able to thermoregulate as an endotherm. Many of the organisms there in the African pavilion, you'll find are endothermic. So just think and contemplate, do a little bit of research if you need to for any of the additional photos that you need for the Lab 4 assignment. I'm just going to quickly grab my things, but just to repeat this one more time, go up. And actually, you'll find the zoo guides as well. That will make it even easier. Go up, you guys. For those that have to selectively, like, quickly leave, if those of you can wait for about 3 minutes for me to grab my bag, that'd be amazing. And I'll help you guys go up as well, if that's okay. No problem. Take care. Inshallah. If you guys have to go, you could go up as well, like immediately. But if you can wait, that'd be amazing, because I'm going to be giving you guys the notes as well. Like, I'll be going through certain materials with you guys. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, just wait a few minutes. I don't know where it is, so I'll have to look. But thanks a lot, you guys. No, that's not this. رب العرش الكريم. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all the efforts. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. There. Thank you. There's one. There's the pythons, the boa, the black sheep monitor, and the birds. Excuse me. Sorry, I think I left my backpack here. I think I left my bag here. Have you seen any brown bag around the pavilion here or not? Okay. Okay. Maybe I'll just look in if it was hidden somewhere. Okay. I will have a look. No, I actually lost my bag, so
Oh, no.
yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I think I'm gonna. It may be in the entrance, but I'll have a look around.
Yeah, so get services and then turn it in, that's where.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great time. إن شاء الله تعالى قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. سورة البقرة. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة أولئك هم المهتدون. أولئك الذين صبروا الله أكثر. So I'll have to find out. It's okay for you guys. You don't have to worry. I'll have a look around, see if I could find it. But in the meantime, let's go up.
Maybe they're driving it lost out or something.
That's what I'm hoping, but it's okay. I'll have to look around for it. But I don't want to also depart you guys. I want you guys to. By the way, everyone else who left,
Most of the people went up.
they went up though, right? They didn't leave to another location. Okay. So we'll catch up with them. That's okay. If you guys want to jog, you can, because this is the final. This is our final lap, really, before we leave. So if you guys want, I'll get everyone together now. Folks, if you want, we could all go up now. We could, because this is our last pavilion for today, we're gonna just go up and see if we could see the African pavilion with essentially the gorillas, the different, like the macaws, the hippos, etc. So hopefully we'll be able to see some different organisms for our final round for today. I had one question. So I actually had my backpack from before, but for some reason, or it appears like I don't have it with me anymore. So I'm hoping if I could find out from guest services if it maybe it was brought there. Otherwise, I don't mind looking around. However, I already went to 2 pavilions, and I don't think it's where I would have expected.
Talk to guest services, and you can also get a phone number from them because they may not have it today, but
I think I saw you this morning with a backpack.
Yeah, you did?
I think I did.
Yeah.
You started off with one.
Yes.
if it's not been dropped in
Yes.
by the time you leave,
Okay.
you can call and they can tell whether
That's okay. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
hopefully it will be there by the time you go to leave.
And I think the good thing is because we're going up the bridge and it'll be a high elevation, I might as well have it somewhere safe rather than essentially carrying a big load with me. So we'll see. I don't mind, but I really appreciate the help.
Phone number that you saw,
Okay.
but check the lost and found on your way out.
Okay.
Over to the greenhouse in the health science area.
We did go there with the armored tigers. I wonder if I would.
On the there where the animals, that building.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You know, X-rays and
Wow.
ultrasound and everything.
Wow.
You get to see where they actually, and they have like a crate that some of the bigger animals.
Oh, that's really
Right
interesting.
up there. It's not. It's
Pretty cool.
Wow.
really is. It's right beside the greenhouse, which is
Yes.
pretty nice too.
Wow. Okay. I really appreciate it. Thanks for letting us know. I just have to bring the lab upwards, but hopefully when we come down, if they have the time, they could definitely try to see what they can.
Something happening because I've seen Isaac banana frog and then we work on tiger.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Let's see what we can.
That's some serious science people here.
Yeah, I imagine. I agree. I want to say I really appreciate the help, by the way. And I really hope that many incoming students will also find the amazing service from Toronto Zoo from you.
Building they're putting up front, yeah.
Yeah, we saw it under construction.
Well, so that's will be open after hours, even when the entrance is closed, because they will have classrooms connected with you at University of Toronto right there,
That's amazing.
right on site. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Interesting. So that's additional information that I wasn't aware of, and I think many students may find that quite interesting, notable as well.
A year of construction, and by the end of the year, that thing will be.
That's exciting. Wow. Technically from university.
Okay.
But I know because for the lab that we have, we're on tight for timing.
Okay.
So
I'll let you go.
I really appreciate it. We really appreciate the help.
Where school you guys from?
UFT, UTSC actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
So like we're taking the lab, trying to see different organisms, see how they thermoregulate, and we're just trying to gain intel and contact with, the amazing zoo staff here.
All right, because I know you're on a time frame.
I appreciate it.
Check out
See as much as you can.
naked mole rats, yeah? Just barely endothermic.
The Morats?
Naked mole rats.
Oh, Nikki Morat, yeah.
Just barely
Oh,
endothermic, yeah?
okay. Thanks for letting us know.
They're a rodent, little.
Yes.
But they'll live to be like 30 years old.
Oh, that's amazing. Thanks for letting us know, both of you. Having an amazing time. Thanks again. So let's, we've gained a lot of information. We've seen bonus species, we've gotten bonus words of wisdom. So I hope that hopefully as we continue today's lab into the final round, that we're able to complete as much as we need to. I want us to bear in mind though, because we're all a group, try to come, even if it's segregated, to like be as close as possible. So that way we could jog accordingly, because this is going to be a bit of a walk. And I don't want you to, just to maintain the timing that we need for today's lab. I think, yeah, we should get going. Sorry?
Do you want to run? Like, I don't care. I don't have
If we could jog, that would be amazing. Could everyone here jog? Everyone try to jog if you can now. Yes, thermoregulate, folks. We're endotherms. We're in the snow, in the winter cold. See, so you have to go all the way up. It's quite a long. Yeah. It's like going to Panama in the zoo. Keep it up, folks. And maybe we'll catch up. And some of these squirrels are so friendly that they just want to interact with you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Last week, one of the squirrels just came up to us and they were like signaling, "We want food." I was like, "Whoa!"
how to get it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, especially now in the winter cold. Few acorns out as well. Yes. We wanna maximize the time that we need to have before the end of the practical. You can do it, folks. Let's see if we can catch some African penguins. That's a surprise as well. But first off, we're going to see the gorillas.
Lady?
Yeah.
There's a crossbreeding between grizzlies and polar bears. They're creating a
Really?
totally species.
What?
The grizzlies.
Grizzlies? Grizzlies.
Yeah, and the polar bears.
What are grizzlies?
Grizzlies. Like,
Think of, oh.
yeah, because it's getting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Grizzly bears, yeah.
Yeah, and the polar bears, they're like crossbreeding and
Yeah.
creating a new species.
No, they will look a bit like different in colors. They may have spots or patches, or may have a blending color.
Does it count as a new species?
It depends. They're different, like not necessarily.
Like
Not
Lee said,
necessarily.
counted as a new species.
It's like a hybrid.
Hybriding.
You guys took some photos? What happened to the rest of the group? Okay. So, you guys know how to go back down?
Yes.
You took at least. Yeah. If you guys, okay, so perfect. Since you guys are all here, and in case those that come in, you're able to see them again. You have two options. If you want to take more photos of, let's say, the African penguins, the lemurs, and the lions, you could go down that side. And it should be like maybe 5-ish minutes, so you guys can take as many photos, 5-10 minutes. And then if you want to leave, you go pretty much all the way down. You'll be where we almost initially started, and pretty much you just have to reverse your steps going back away from the temporary entrance and all the way down to the parking lot. You have the parking pass as well. Perfect. Just make sure if you can't scan the code and it's not working for any of you, just make sure you call the security or the customer service and you just give them the code and they should let you guys get back. So, Les, I really appreciate the time. If you have any questions, let me know. Once again, great to have you. I really appreciate that, umbrella.
Thank you.
No problem. Take care, Bishop. Really appreciate it. If you guys want, by the way, because I am sharing details with them, I would recommend if you can stay for like another 5 minutes, that's okay. If you have to go, it's okay as well. Just make sure that you're able to know what you have to write down, be it for the species, how they thermoregulate, and where you found them in here or in the wild or world environment. With that, take care. Really appreciate the time. Get home safe or get to school safe. No, it's okay. It's okay. Well, soon. I would say soon, in due time. But with that in mind, if she's having trouble finding the way out, go with her accordingly. Like help her, let her know the directions. I really appreciate it. I wanted to let her know as well, but she's already ahead. So you guys could get going. All the best. Really appreciate it. Alaykum. Take care. So let's get going, folks. I want to make sure. Hopefully they are not stuck. Any questions, by the way, from what I've talked about thus far? Any questions? Any concerns? Lab 4 assignment. I know it's an interesting one in the code, but nonetheless, as we saw from the oscillation pavilion, you'll see a change in temperature soon. let me briefly highlight, folks, a few things about these gorillas. And there may be a bit of limited time. Let me just make sure I could turn on something. You can actually take photos as you wish. Guys, feel free to come closer. Well,
These are all, these are the girls. These are the girls.
oh,
We have 4.
Down, right? And there's the little one. Charlie just replaced her. Mom came down.
Yeah, but.
so for those that are online, I just wanted to share that the phone may actually shut off, so it may be difficult to see the rest. But I really do hope that you've appreciated the manifold blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the creations and how He allows them to thermoregulate in unique ways and patterns, morphologies, and unique subhanAllah features for their survival throughout the world. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah ta'ala, may Allah allow this gap be kept as long as He is pleased. Ameen. So, folks, I'm just going to highlight a few other things about these gorillas. I've already touched upon how they're endothermic. So, what you can also appreciate is pretty much just before we leave, that they're able to fluff up their hair to keep warm. So they use different strategies as you see them in live action, eating food, going up to different locations. They also have a small burrow or like a shade wherein they're able to easily essentially sleep, rest, cool down. And if they wanted to eat or go up pineland, then they're able to essentially metabolize, eat, and feel warmer accordingly. As endotherms maintain their core temperatures, like ourselves, at homeothermic rates. So just bear that in mind, folks, that you're just bearing in mind their behavior, their migration, or importantly, their thermoregulation patterns that exist here. We're going to move a bit forward now. Any questions, folks? I want us to actually move a bit ahead. So that way we don't miss any other things before the end.
Pick up the voice.
And then how do they get the?
I'm sorry, but
Sometimes they will keep that below, but they don't see each other.
we may have to get going though. I apologize, but we may have to get going.
Okay,
for timing,
all right.
But I really appreciate this, and I hope
Thank you.
the students
I
have
wanted
as
to
well.
talk to you guys about cell phones, but
Oh, they're not appreciated here?
no, they are about recycling cell phones because so do you have 2 seconds?
2 seconds.
2 seconds. Okay. So everybody's got a cell phone. Lots of people have lots of children. One of the components. Yeah. Forest out there. In the rainforest where your brother was released. So this is what the rainforest.
Wow.
So, big area. The good part is the program, because cold foam can be recycled over and over. And of course, the program here and it's another area. So bring in your old cell phone and actually retrieve it.
Wow.
Back into things. So it's called. There's all kinds of different things. I like to ask the question. You probably saw my answer. How many cell phones does somebody have in their lifetime? You know how every time a new one comes out, people want to get 4 in your life?
I'm more on the 5 side, but 28.
28. Because they're getting younger and younger to have cell phones. And now your grandparents probably have, right? So if you think about, even if you change your phone every 3 years. I mean, mine, I have 12, sorry, like 12, so. But if you can just take that, return it, they take it out and send it back to production. So that's a very easy way for someone like, anybody anywhere to make an impact on helping save their happiness.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I really appreciate
No
it.
problem. So if it's called Phone 8.
Ah, phone 8.
And they have, I think there's other areas. I think there might even be a thing at Scarborough Town Center where you can
Wow,
return your cell phones to.
that's amazing.
Just send them to Actries. Yeah.
And could you use the phone thereafter or no? I would imagine not.
No. This is for phones that you normally would go in the
I
garbage
see.
or at the recycling depot. But if you bring it to that, it's specifically for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great to know. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day. and
Likewise.
Hopefully the pygmy hippos are out.
I hope so.
The next stop.
Yeah. Folks will get going shortly. So we have a few other organisms here. The tiny tortoise, for example, here is very small, different from a turtle. You could see the Latin or the scientific and common name there, but it's actually hiding, burrowing in the debris there, 2 of them. You could see its shell, the shell patterns. They look like golden yellow with some brown grayish spots. And the point of this being with the ceramic and heat lamps is that within these environments for the ectotherms, like the frogs that we talked about earlier, they are able to do evaporative cooling when they're heating up, and they're able to move to different environments when needed to maintain their core temperatures. And different organisms have different core temperatures, but the point of them being either endo or ectothermic is that they're able to adjust their core temperature in the environment or based on their metabolic needs. And so if they have to move, if they want to cool down, they'll go into a cave or burrow or go into the water that may be thermostatically controlled, or even go down into the shade, like under the burrows, or they may go up into the sand, bask, and cool down if they heat up too high. So that's a bit about these tiny tortoises. We'll move up a bit more. We have the tomato frog here as well, and it's very similar. This is just an example of logging versus unlogging, which you can imagine has devastating effects on different habitats in the savanna, in other environments as well. You can see a frog right there. That's the tomato frog, if I'm not mistaken. And the Mantella's frog. I believe that's the Mantella frog. Yep. No, sorry, that's a different type of frog. The tomato frog is here. It's a bit larger. Down here, it also does evaporative cooling. Notice the different colors for these different frogs as well, because that helps them absorb different wavelengths of light. I also want to highlight that they absorb water through their skin to cool down. So that's the opposite of evaporative cooling. And so once again, these ectotherms need to be able to essentially control or they would regulate to their core temperatures based on the environment. So obviously they don't want to be too hot nor too cold, but they'll move up and down to different locations when needed. And what you could also appreciate is their relationships with other organisms like the ants that are on the leaves here. So you could just see that and maybe appreciate that they'll be able to ingest and digest certain organisms when they need to. But in brevity, essentially, these organisms are also endemic. So conservation efforts are also in place to maintain their survival within the right habitats and environments, while understanding their thermoregulation essentially, and their patterns for thermoregulation worldwide. So we have sorry folks, I'm just going to show students a crocodile here. So we have the dwarf crocodile here looking at the riverbed essentially. And what you can appreciate is that essentially they're also ectothermic and they bask as well, like those frogs that I talked about. Sorry folks. I don't want to also, like, if anyone wants to take photos, they could do it on edge if you guys still wanted to stay. Point is that essentially, they are also actually able to evaporatively cool. They can actually sweat tears through their eyes. They're often considered another form for thermoregulation within their environment, and they can move into the water when they want to cool down, or they can move up and bask accordingly. And you'll notice that they also have a dark skin, a dark complexion, which helps them absorb UV absorb the light from the open sky, right? So remember, the same, sun that is there for the warthog, the wombat, to even here on the crocodile and to other amphibians, lizards, even to the sea, to the coral reefs, to everything, is the same sun that actually is, benefiting so many organisms around the world, in the Toronto Zoo and beyond. So that's something that hopefully you can appreciate, and their thermoregulative patterns can be exhibited as shown here, with a change in color, the change in configuration, their appendages, and like as we talked about earlier, but even for fur and feathers for different organisms, be it for the birds or for mammals like the Arctic wolves, etc. We can move a bit further now. I'll just move through this way. And we'll see some fishes. They're fishes like before. They're ectothermic, poikilothermic. So they are, and folks, I hope you all are able to come up. There are a few people that are behind, so try to come up accordingly. I just want to highlight again, these are poikilothermic, so they are actually ectothermic, and indeed they are influenced once again by the environmental temperature. So just imagine, as we'll see, and as we move further up, you will find many fishes, like here from Lake Malawi. So appreciate here, folks. These are cichlids. They're smaller and they're pleiothropic. Like what I mean here is that they're very diverse, yet so small. And something that you guys can hopefully appreciate here is that as you guys come, Aaron, can you call everyone else to come in? They're also ectothermic, as the frogs, as we talked about the crocodile, as we talked about the fishes as well. But subhanAllah, imagine so many fishes from different species, all living in the same temperature or same water at a fixed temperature. It shows you the amount of efforts that the zoo staff has to put in, but also in terms of regulating, such a plethora of fishes and creatures from around the sea. And then take this now at a macrocosmic level to the ocean beds around the world, right? There's 7 main oceans around the world, and just imagine how many billions of species are out there in organisms that all thrive within a similarly controlled or similar environment. That being said, there's some locations up that are relatively more warmer, and others that as you go more down, like for the jellies, they're relatively more cooler. But the idea is that they're all living in the same water. And just it also shows you how magnificent this is, how beautiful it is, but at the same time, how magnified the precautions are for pollution. Because if you have, let's say, pollutants added in from into the water, into the coral reefs, they can have devastating effects on these populations and many more that are influenced by them and from even beyond the ones that we see here and beyond our scope of view. So just bear that in mind, folks. Even from the lowest of organisms, zooplankton, crustaceans, and other organisms, invertebrate included, they can have magnified and many-fold impacts and effects on the aquatic ecosystem that we see here and around the world. So that's a bit of this. We're going into one of the final main portions of Lab 4, or at least Lab for this pavilion here in Africa. So we are going to see the veiled chameleon, also ectothermic. It may be difficult to see now. In the past, if you actually move a bit back, you should be able to see it like more clearly through the mesh. I don't know if any of you could see it. If you do, maybe on the left side, let me know. It may also be hiding, which is another thing, like under the shade, and that's also perfectly okay. Essentially, they're also ectothermic, and as you can imagine, they change in color, and that change in color is beneficial because they can absorb different wavelengths of light. They can also be able to reflect and bounce off certain wavelengths of light, which can help modulate their changes in temperature. We can move, let's see if I find it actually. I'm going to move a bit to the left in case it's hiding. Sometimes they move a bit up, so it's a bit hard to see above the glass. Oh, sorry. And it could be, I think it's hiding actually, so don't worry too much. But nonetheless, you can appreciate the changes of color now in a unique way in relation to thermoregulation. I think I see something. Okay. Maybe it's hiding. Let's move forward, folks. Don't worry. So now we have the law banded iguana. Remember, we saw this as well in Australasian pavilion, right? So this is another reminder. Ectothermic species able to bask as well, and essentially they also bask and move up and down to either warm up or cool down accordingly. And yes, yes,
Like an aging.
So there's actually two options about this. One is that changing in temperatures is actually helping it to thermoregulate, so that way it absorbs more heat from its tail region, perhaps because it's more mobile and more metabolically essentially serving or important for the. Actually, I want to say another word: highly metabolic or metabolically active. So it's very active as it moves left and right, up and down, etc. Maybe to whisk off certain, let's say leaves or debris around its body. But the other thing is Asian, and some organisms actually have this is not an exoskeleton, but have certain parts of their body chip off and regrow. So it's possible even for its leg, or at least for other organisms, that they have different limbs or we talked about for the appendages, some of them get cut off or essentially degrade, and they regrow thereafter, which is another way to appreciate, changes in their mode of their survival or their changes in their environment. Hold on. Now I'll move forward to, and also another small note is that even if they're in the same habitat, the same species, or if it is the same species, they may live in different habitats and thus have different characteristics as well. The naked mole rat you may find around, as one of the zoo staff said, it's faintly endothermic. So this is a unique exhibit of them having a spectrum in between endothermic and ectothermic traits. Just want to get a refresher for folks. Do we remember what an endotherm is? Does anyone share for endotherm? Okay, and then you said the other one was ectothermic. Yes. Exothermic, by the way, is more chemistry. So just take a small note on that. Exothermic versus ectothermic in biology. But that being said, naked mole rat is generally endothermic. As you can imagine, it's bald, as you can see around its body, and so it's very sensitive. It is used in different environments, as you can see clinically here and at the back. But ideally, the environments are there to be well suitable for its survival and for its reproduction. That being said, though, if there's any other things, only mammal that is also poikilothermic. So remember about Daphnia, how you could change readily up and down its heart rate with changes in temperature. It's very similar for the naked mole rat, which is why it's also very unique in different experimental uses. But that being said, obviously you don't want to exploit ethically or exploit in the most appropriate view Islamically of being able to harm, organisms like the poikilotherms of Daphnia, like the naked mole rat, like the gorillas, like as we saw and learned about the cobalt, the minerals that also have impacts. These are things that you guys want to just think about and reflect upon accordingly. The Garaka, I don't have much to talk about, likely ectothermic as well, but notice the blue coloration. Similarly for the Zonobi, very thin and small and active. The Joba Mena is something so beautiful though. It has red small fins at the very back, which you can see and appreciate as changes in color. Likely, they actually live underneath near the ocean floor, or relatively speaking, they go more down into the ocean beds, as more colored organisms will generally be more afloat, more towards absorbing rays from the sun. Now we're gonna go down here, folks, into one of the last stations for today. What photos were you taking? Oh, perfect. So here's the hippo. You guys could see the hippo. I'm gonna move down, maybe so you guys could see as well. I'll just be right here to also capture some videos. But just a few things. This is the pygmy hippo. I'm so happy you guys got to see it. So there is a few things. It is endothermic. So think about once again the naked mole rat. It has just skin covering its body. But in this case, it's much larger, right? The hippo. And interestingly, it's nocturnal, coming out only during the coldest times of the day. Last week, it was actually in the water. So you could just imagine these endotherms, they're sensitive to the environment. And wow, how the door opens and closes is pretty interesting too. So just bear that in mind. They look like they're also going to get lunch soon, as you can see the lattice there. So believe it or not, that police station is going to move up, or it's going to be brought in closer to them. So that way they could get food quite readily from that small opening there. We'll move just a bit down. Any questions, folks? You notice also trees having their scientific names as well. For those that are in plant biology or want to reflect back in the past of weeks 1 to 3, where we dealt with more, or 1 to 2 when we dealt with plants. This is something you can also appreciate from angiosperms to gymnosperms, etc. And by the way, the photo is taken in beautifully. You can appreciate the scientific name of the organisms. So now, actually, you're about to see likely, it's lunchtime for the hippo. So we'll go forward a bit more. But once again, if you want to capture the scientific name, you could do so there. The pygmy hippopotamus. It also secretes blood as like blood sweat. Try not to move far away, folks. Stay close by because I want to be able to give you detailed information for your post lab assignment. But briefly, I just want to highlight that they actually sweat out blood, and that's a new or not new, like a novel mechanism for them, or for us to learn how they're able to secrete evaporative cooling mechanisms to reduce heat in their blood system, in their circulatory system, but also, which is very pronounced indeed, within their core body, right? Because as the heart is within their in the core of their body, changes in the blood flow, blood pressure, blood temperature are ways for them to be able to thermoregulate as endotherms as well. So that's a unique attribute of these beautiful species as well. And indeed, they have a dense capillary network in the skin for heat transfer to the periphery, i.e. to the edges of their body, which is something that we could also appreciate from blood sweating. So you could see the pygmy hippopotamus right here. Usually for when it relates to the status of pygmy, they're generally more bald and skin toned, which you could see here, and from the one beneath beforehand. So this is, what a beautiful creation indeed. We'll go. Oh yeah, and you gotta see it go into the water. That's amazing. Yes, so actually, if you go down to this side, you'll see it. Likely basking, or cooling down, rather, as was the case beforehand. Oh, it's going underneath, so it may be swimming, coming in close. You can see the ripples in the water, so it's likely, oh, it went down the other way. So it just got a cool rinse through the water, and now it's just going back up, maybe going to also cool down near the shade. So that's just something that you guys can hopefully appreciate. Let's go a bit further up now. There's also these plants here. It's called like a sausage tree. Believe it or not, the one that is above on our right. So you can also appreciate that as well. There's the tortoises, the red foot one here. There's also, I believe, the Aldabra tortoise as well. Both are ectothermic, and you could also appreciate evaporative cooling. They also have a heat pad to maintain their temperatures from the environment. So that's something that you can appreciate. The scientific name also being included there. Some of these organisms, as you will see for the abysses and the shell ducks, that they live cooperatively with each other in the unique environments, sharing food, as you'll see with the zoo staff as they navigate, giving different food for the birds and giving out waste, taking out waste accordingly. You'll notice some of the food as well. There's fishes, anchovies. There's some debris as like cluttered food there as well, and some lettuce and shrubs accordingly. So you'll see unique environments for these birds as well. They're endothermic. They raise their metabolic rates to keep warm, and they'll move up and down different environments to be able to adjust both their core body temperature and their metabolic rate when they're hunting, flying, basking down, and doing other things accordingly. Now as well, they shiver to keep warm. They poof up their feathers to keep warm. Many birds will stretch wings out to absorb heat. So think about the unique ways that you just saw from the black sacred ibis shown flapping its wings near the very back. It's picking up food. It's being able to flap its wings. It's able to absorb the heat with its black skin tone. And it's also able to, move about to different locations quite readily and pick up food when needed. And as they are now communicating with one another. So that's also a nice way for them to observe food and to interact and know their next steps from day in to day out, or from the beginning of the day to the very end of night. They also take a dip into the water to cool down, right? So think about that like for endotherms. And some birds, such as storks, perform urohidis or urohidois. And that is essentially where they excrete out from their feathers or legs to increase heat loss by evaporation. So that's another form of evaporative cooling, urohidis. So I'll spell it out for you guys. urohidrosis, if you guys wanted to know that feature. It's similar to evaporative cooling, and that's a nice mechanism for cooling down also organisms that may be close by. Think of it like plants when you add in cool water to help them cool accordingly as well if it's overheating in the summer. We're almost done. I think we're actually done, but let's just confirm. Maybe there's a bonus species or two down here. There technically is different options for us. Briefly, we could go here. Actually, let's go right. Right is better because we're going to be done shortly. We have one tortoise there, a big one here as well. We have the ring-tailed lemur. So hopefully if we see two of them or even just one, I'll briefly talk about it. Oh, it's not here. And that is another point about illegal wildlife, or at least the importance of sanctifying or taking care of different organisms.
Dripping water.
But yeah. No, it's not pee. It's just from the rain, I think. There may be a crack, but Joshua, can you see? Oh, you saw the lemur? Perfect. Okay, sorry, I missed the lemur for you guys. So that's the ring-tailed lemur. Think about Madagascar. You know, like very beautiful. Lemurs indeed. They pick themselves up when they move about. It's right down that side. If you guys need to take a photo, you can also look at those that have taken photos already, and you could share accordingly. But the idea is similar to what I've talked about before. They're endothermic. They have a lot of fur. They want to keep themselves warm, right? And so they'll be together and do things to essentially huddle like for warmth, like penguins, which you may see if you want. But they also lack piloerection, so they raise their hair to trap in air or warm air. Like ourselves, when we're very cold, we often get like goosebumps and our hair sticks up. So that way we could accordingly reduce the amount of hair loss, or sorry, we'll actually keep and insulate ourselves to reduce the amount of heat loss by keeping ourselves warm and close in with our fur or with our hair around our bodies. The Aldabra tortoises are down that end. Briefly, they are, I believe, ectothermic, yes, and they cover themselves to trap themselves, like I said before, to maintain their heat. It's hiding down there. If you want to take a photo, you can. But with that, we are almost done. There is one more species. Just one more, folks. The Nile soft-shelled turtle. As you can see right there, it's a huge turtle indeed, right? And once again, it's going to bask itself during this time, right? It's trying to cool down on the bottom near the waterbed, right, into the water itself. But it also has the opportunity with its black coloration of its skin to essentially absorb heat from the top. And so that's a nice way homeostatically to, as a homeotherm, to maintain its core body temperature constantly while changing in different environmental temperatures and as an ectotherm. So just bear that in mind. There are apparently pythons as well, which are poikilotherms, similar to the ones that we've talked about. We don't have to look at, well, if you guys want to look at them, you can. They're pythons apparently. Oh, they would essentially be outside in the giraffe house. I would say though, if you guys, because it is almost time, I'll briefly end off. I'll end off right here actually. So congratulations for making it thus far. I know it's a bit of a walk. I know there's a lot being said, but I really do hope you've appreciated it thus far. I know there's a gentleman also recording me, and I don't mind as well. I really hope that you all appreciate the amazing exhibit here at the zoo, and that you've been able to look at different pavilions thus far. A few important reminders for Lab 4. After 1 p.m. today, you have 48 hours to complete the Lab 4 assignment. So choose 3 different organisms from the 3 different pavilions that we looked at thus far. If you only have 2 and you found 1 organism in between to make that your 3rd, that's okay, but make sure you have all 3 organisms from all 3 pavilions, and you're able to identify all that I've mentioned. In your figure, the caption needs to be very descriptive. It needs to include the common name, the scientific name, where you found it in the exhibit, and its traits for thermoregulation, i.e. from the 4 categories that I mentioned. Is it a poikilotherm? Is it an ectotherm, an endotherm, or a homeotherm? And specify both if you can, if it's an endotherm in its source and in its sensitivity, i.e. if it's a homeotherm or poikilotherm, and or ectotherm/endotherm. So bear that in mind. That's for your figure caption. And then your paragraph description includes all of that in more sentence format, but then thereafter includes where they would be found in the real world, right? And on top of that, including like the scientific common name, where you found them in the exhibit, but also including details that I've talked about, details from what you find online and what is required of you in the manual, including how and why they thermoregulate. So think about like, if they're ectothermic, do they go up or down into the water? How do they move up in their natural environment? If they're endothermic, what tools, essentially, what features do they have at their disposal to be able to regulate their core temperature? Do they have feathers like birds? Do they have fur like Arctic wolves? Or do they have dark skin tones like the pygmy hippos or the Nile soft-shelled turtle, or other organisms that we've seen many across today, like the polar bears, to maintain and actually absorb heat like gorillas from the sun and from external heat sources, or even the ceramic heat lamps like the black tree monitor. So bear those details in mind, folks. Really appreciate your time. 2 minutes ahead. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to also ask the biolife.utsc@utoronto.ca email, but I would recommend trying to do this as soon as you can from the photos that you have. You can work on it once you can. And if you want, there are other organisms that you could explore outside of the pavilion. If you take photos of them for the Lab 4 assignment, just let me know and specify where you found them accordingly. With this, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Really appreciate the time. You've done 2/3 of your practical here at AO2. And if you have any questions, let me know. Congrats, folks. Only 2 more weeks to go for you guys, or 2 more labs in a month's time. So sorry about that. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll get you guys directed towards the exit. If you guys also want to see bonus organisms, I'll let you know where you can. But with that, I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, let me know. And I'll direct you guys outwards. Thanks again. Here's the tortoise again, bonus organism with a small bird. Look at that. Comparisons of a mammal with a bird right here. Sorry, a reptile. I'm thinking of other organisms. A mammal, reptile, and the bird right here. Great contrast in size and of shape, you know. And that was an organism that was about to, you know, it is also ectothermic. It also tries to cover itself under its shell to cool down too. It's very big indeed. Yeah. And so as we go down, let's see, anything else you guys need? There's a pool as well with a heater above, so it also cools down or is able to adjust its core temperature, just like how I talked about the Nile seashell turtle. The second viewing window has a larger heat pad, this one right here, and there's radiant heaters as well. So pretty much there's different locations for it to bask, to relax, and to also cool down when needed. Yeah, and there are plants here as well. So I hope you guys got to really appreciate the wilderness of different, or even just really the beautiful nature that has been provided. Allah, that's available here. Oh, and here's the python. I never saw it before. Okay, but this is a python and that's a viper. That is actually interesting. Ectothermic, poikilothermic as well. So if you guys want more details, if you want to include this as an example for your lab for assignment, it's like an extra, like a mark, like an extra piece for you guys. They don't need to use energy to keep themselves warm. They bask, active in the day. They hide in the shade if it's too cold, or sorry, if it's too hot. And yeah, there's heat pads, just like what we've talked before. You can find them on the west end of Africa as well, and you find many of them. You just have to be, often with snakes, a bit careful, and bearing in mind that they often are sensitive to those that try to, predate them. So just bear that in mind. The royal python is down there. You can take a photo if needed. It's like lying down, basking at the moment as a poikilotherm. And I don't know if you guys could see the Gaboon viper, which by the way is you have to be very careful. Oh yeah, so it's wow. You could see how it's hiding. The Gaboon viper is down there. And it could also be basking or cooling down, depending on its environment. So think about that. Temperature conditions also being regulated. They may cool down in the shade or in the water or bask upwards to warm up accordingly. I really appreciate this time. You guys got to see extra organisms now. You guys can get going. I know some of you may want to leave, but I'll give you directions so that way you're not lost, hopefully. But pretty much go back the steps that we went, and above the hill, you have two options to see more organisms or go to the exit. The exit will take us down the bridge, and then we'll be making, I believe, a left turn, then a right turn, and then you'll likely return back to where we got our tickets or where we first started off as a group. We'll go together, or actually, I'll let you guys go. I may stay just a bit longer for additional things. But in the meantime, I'll give you directions. Everyone okay, by the way? Any final questions before we leave the lab? No lab coat needed to be taken off, by the way? No problem. Few more, there's a few people behind you. No problem. Anyone else? 13? Okay. Okay. I'm just worried if anyone else has been missing. No one else got lost during this time, right? Okay, so perfect. Okay, we have everyone. Now, like everyone who stayed thus far. Oh, so technically, if you guys wanted to see giraffes, you can. No pressure if you guys have to leave. But essentially, if you want to leave, you're pretty much going to go down that way. Go back to essentially... Actually, I should direct you guys through here. I'll make it easier. Because we'll be getting back to where we were from before. And that way, if you just want to view the giraffes, you can as well. Watch out the water. You can put on your hoodie if you need to. Or you can. No problem. No problem. Don't worry, don't worry. Well, I would watch out if you can. Yeah. Anyone else behind you? Aaron?
One guy.
One more?
Yeah.
From our lab?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Feel free to come in. Okay, do you guys see the giraffes? I actually never got to show other students this, so you guys are getting like bonus ones all at a time. Look at it eating. You know, outside in the spring and summer, you would find it outside, right? Notice this endotherm, you know, eating the shrubs around it, and obviously it needs to be in the right temperature, right? Because it wants to maintain its internal core temperatures, and so obviously you would want it to be outside in the snow, but it's left here in a great way. And even you'll notice the doors are quite massive. If you see there, to be able to move it from one location, one pavilion to another. So that's something that is just brief to highlight for you guys. They grow up at small ages, being relatively small, maybe like half the size of this one here, but then they grow up quite tall, and sometimes more than 2/3 of the size of the one behind us. So that's something to also appreciate. And what they also like to do is to, you know, cool down, evaporative cooling if needed. But also they have fur and other things, like the fur at the neck, essentially, to be able to modulate their neck region, following thermoregulative patterns. So let's go further. They could also cool down and sleep here too, like right around here as well, just as a thought for those that are wondering. Thanks a lot. No problem. You guys can come as well. So this makes it easier, so that way you got to pass through another pavilion and got to see more creatures just before we leave today. No problem. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. Watch out your stuff. I didn't realize it's quite wet here.
I think that's what she's from.
Right?
The tour guide thing.
Ah.
Remember she saying there's like a puddle on the egg?
Oh yeah, that's the puddle.
Thing lead from the other side.
Technically, this is not too bad. If you have boots or shoes that are able to pass through quickly, it shouldn't be too bad. This is actually where you'd find the giraffes as well, outside in the spring. The Maasai giraffes. Now we can move further. I know some of you may want to go home. How many of you are planning to stay? Okay, that's okay. That's okay. I want you guys to go like back easily. Now I just need to retrace because we went out another way. It's back this way, yeah. I just want to see if there's an easier route. Okay, so let's go back. We're gonna go up the hill. Look at the miniature giraffe. That's your giraffe, folks. Yeah, pretty much. So you guys got to see a lot, like a large number of them, actually. Very grateful. About like 30 or more. So pretty much now you just have to select 1 out of 10 of them, essentially. 3 in total. And that should be okay. Yeah, you may want to watch your step. You can also use the ice to your advantage. If you have boots, you could also essentially go through the water. I hope you guys are okay. You can use the snow. You can pass through the snow. That may make it easier. So you're not directly going through the water if you don't have boots. Oh. As we walk around though, likely your shoes will dry out, so don't worry. But let me just make sure. Yeah, we're going the right way. So we're taking a little detour to go up the bridge. So this hopefully will get you guys well oriented with where we have to go next. some of the organisms will actually go out here. So that's also another thing to bear in mind. So I'm just going to share the following for those that have to go. I actually have to go pray, so I'll tell you guys what you need to do if you have to leave. This is your bridge, right? This is your navigation all the way down to the entrance of the zoo. So what you need to do is just follow the trail. Some folks will likely already be going to the entrance. You know how to go? Okay, so perfect. Let everyone follow you then. You guys can go all together. Just remember, but before you leave, just remember a few things. You know you have your lab for assignment. I'm trying to gain consciousness of what you guys have next. I think you have you guys done module 2 term test already or no? It's coming up soon, right?
Yeah.
In a week time or like this Friday? Saturday?
Like a week.
Okay. Okay, all the best. I hope you guys do well. Just try to think of like connecting back with the material that's being provided in lecture. But that being said, when you're going back now, try to budget as well what I've talked about. Lab 4, Lab 5 is going to be coming up soon. Try to brace yourselves as soon as you can so that way you don't have to run or be rushed at the very end of the practicals to come for the last 2 that we have together. With this, I'll just say go down the bridge. You'll see your directions, the crossroads like the one behind me here or in front of me, but behind many of you. You'll see the directions to go back to the exit or entrance of the zoo. And then just remember, you're going, if you're taking the bus, the temporary entrance route is the way you're going. So you're going to loop back towards the TTC or Go Bus station or to the parking lot. If you drove, make sure you use those parking passes. If there's any difficulty or you have questions, feel free to call customer service by the buttons they have and provide the code accordingly. All the best, everyone. Amazing to have you guys once again and wishing you all the best in your careers as biologists and beyond. Take care, everyone. Take care. Bye, bye, bye. Take care. I hope you guys get a safe journey back home or back to school.
Okay.
Thank you.
We should find out back.
Thank you.
Back.
No, 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 no. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, my backpack. Don't worry. It's okay. I have to pray actually, so I'll pray and then I'll come back. You guys can go ahead. It's okay. I have to pray. So I want you guys to like at the same time, if you guys want to stay and look around, that's also okay. If you guys want to see penguins, you'll look at them on the left. I forgot to mention that, but it's okay. They'll see the directions as well. If you want to see penguins, look to the left. Okay, it's okay. If you guys if Aaron shares it with them, I think some of them will see the directions.
Yeah.
But that'll be okay then.
Yeah.
All the best. Take care. Great to see you once again. Have any questions, feel free to ask. Maybe next week, because this week I know many of you and like myself quite busy. So all the best. Like in the next. Take care.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem. Rahmatullahi. Take care. Rahmatullahi. سبحان الله العظيم رب العرش الكريم لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. Subhanallah, may Allah forgive me for my shortcomings. By His glory, majesty, honor, His sanctity, His purity, He is Jalla Jalalu fi ula. He is Lord of all creation, the ins, the jinn, the malaika, the amal of every action, and even of the the baqarah, the the abil, the ababil, of the cattle, of the camels. Subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Lord of all creation. The animals that we see around us, the amphibians, the invertebrate, the fishes, the crustaceans, the riverbeds, the ocean floors, the jellies, the things that we see and the things that we don't see. Alimul ghaybi wa shahada. He's the knower of the seen and unseen. Subhanallah al-azim. Wa rabbul arshil kareem. So, Ameen. Ya Rabb, allow us to be amongst those that you're most pleased with. Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. And inshallah ta'ala, we're going to actually pray here. Believe it or not, I didn't even know, subhanAllah, they actually have a multi-faith prayer room here at the zoo. Can you, subhanAllah, may Allah guide, them to have this as a masajid. Masajidullah, a masjid on earth for Allah's creation. All the Anbiya and Muslims for his beautiful creation indeed. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Subhanallah, look at this, brothers and sisters. So they not only have a space that's covered, blocked from any, distractions, but subhanallah, look at this. They have prayer mats and they have a portable wudu station. Allahu Akbar. In case you need to make wudu. And I already saw, they said that they have a washroom icon there. Subhanallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of the efforts, and I really do hope that this has been a benefit for you all. If you have any questions, inshallah ta'ala, let me know at any time. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to most please Him at all times. Allahumma ameen. وآخر دعوانا والحمد لله والحمد لله رب العالمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا كثيرا. طيب. جزاكم الله خيرا كثيرا.